Hello, everyone. Before we begin, we want to remind you that we will be answering your questions after the broadcast. Please submit your questions to us on our Instagram page at Grand Teton NPS. And if you take any photos of your class tuning in to today's live stream, feel free to share those photos too.
Welcome, students, to this edition of Snow Desk, the show from the snow in Grand Teton National Park. I'm Ranger Diani,
And I'm Ranger Kennedy.
and we're coming to you live from the town of Moose in Grand Teton National Park. It's located in the northwest corner of the state of Wyoming. The red star on the map is where Grand Teton National Park is located. Find your location on the map and compare it to where we are.
And it's pretty wintry out here today. You've connected with us as we sit outside at a desk made out of 4 feet of snow. This year we had so much snow that we basically only had to carve out and shape the snow desk. Last year, though, we had to shovel and pile a bunch of snow together before shaping and carving. I wonder how this compares to everyone else's weather out there today.
Grand Teton National Park is one of many special places in the United States that have been set aside to be protected forever. These special places, like the Statue of Liberty, Grand Canyon, and Thomas Edison National Historic Site, have been set aside to tell the stories of humans and wildlife and how their stories are important to people around the world. There are lots of amazing things to explore, discover, and learn. These beautiful places will be here for you to come and visit. Until then, we're glad you get to visit Grand Teton National Park virtually with us today.
Grand Teton National Park was established to protect these beautiful mountains, pristine waterways, and a variety of wildlife. This place is incredibly wild, in part because of our extreme seasons. For example, we are coming to you live in the middle of a long winter. I wonder if anyone out there could guess how many months our winter lasts. Well, our winters can last 6 to 8 months, at least half the year. That's a long winter, and during these long winters, we get a lot of snow. The average annual snowfall up there is over 30 feet, or 400 inches. This season, we have already over 350 inches of snow. That's like the height of a 3-story building. But it's not snowy all the time. Snow melts, turns to water, and ends up in our lakes and rivers. And in today's broadcast of Snow Desk, we'd like to explore the role of water in Grand Teton National Park and your hometown.
Water can exist in 3 different states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. And we're lucky because we have all 3 states of water here in Grand Teton National Park. We'll be doing some hand motions that represent each of these different states, so feel free to follow along with us. First, solid or frozen water, liquid or flowing water, and gas or steam.
All right, so all around us here at Snow Desk, we see solid water, or in this case, snow. Solid water can come in many forms, including snow, ice, glaciers, ice caps, and permafrost. And we have a field correspondent standing by who'd like to tell you about a unique form of frozen water that we have here at Grand Teton National Park. Ranger Aaron, are you there?
Hi there, my name is Ann, and I'm a park ranger here at Grand Teton National Park. This weekend, I got to ski down my favorite form of frozen water, a glacier. This is one of 11 glaciers we find in the park today. A glacier is a large moving body of ice and snow that takes years and years to form. The weight of the snow and ice creates a lot of pressure and squeezes that ice and snow and makes it move downhill. That's different from regular snow and ice that you might encounter. Glaciers actually flow like a large river of ice. Imagine silly putty. Silly putty is solid, but if you put it on top of a desk, you might see it ooze over the side because gravity is going to pull it down, just like a glacier. Glaciers are really big. They can be at least as big as your school, if not huge. Glaciers are a really important form of solid water because they can shape mountains, melt into cold, clean water, and serve as habitat for animals. One creature that needs glaciers to survive is the western glacier stonefly. Stoneflies are small insects that live in clear, cold water and lay their eggs in mountain streams. So imagine like water that is recently melted from a glacier. In fact, Grand Teton National Park just discovered a new species of stonefly in a stream formed by the melting water from the Middle Teton Glacier. And that stream is icy all year long. We know that stoneflies are very sensitive to water pollution, so having them here is special. Stoneflies tell us that we live in a healthy ecosystem. Furthermore, stoneflies are an important part of the food chain, and they provide sustenance for animals such as our beautiful rosy finch, and they eat the insects that we find in these cold, snowy habitats. So imagine if we didn't have glaciers, we wouldn't have these cold mountain streams, and we wouldn't have stoneflies, and they wouldn't serve as food for our beautiful rosy finches. So glaciers are a really important part of frozen water that we find here in Grand Teton National Park. They are my favorite form of frozen water, and I hope they're becoming your favorite too. So please think about, a form of frozen water that you might find in where you live. And think about it for a minute, and then turn to your neighbor and share what you thought of. So, welcome from Grand Teton National Park. I will see you guys later. Goodbye.
Thanks, Ranger Ann. I wonder what everyone's favorite form of solid water is near them. My favorite is ice. Liquid or flowing water. So if it gets warm enough, solid water can turn into that liquid or flowing water. And it's the most common form of water on Earth. This is what we drink with, cook with, wash with. Liquid water can be dew, rain, or rivers. We have another field correspondent standing by who's broadcasting from the Snake River. Clay, can you hear us?
Hi there. My name is Clay Hanna, and I'm one of the rangers here in Grand Teton National Park. And I'm really excited to share with you one of my favorite forms of liquid water here in Grand Teton, and that's the rivers. Now, I'm coming to you live from the Snake River, one of the largest rivers in the western United States. Now, we're fortunate here in Grand Teton that the headwaters or the start of the Snake River is just to our north. And that river flows through Grand Teton, through Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and eventually all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Now, that's pretty amazing to think about, that this water here eventually makes its way all the way to the Pacific Ocean. I've always thought how long that might take. I wonder who I should ask. Maybe I'll just ask the river. River, how long does it take you to get to the Pacific Ocean? Wow, well said, well said. Now, surprisingly, the river does not always look like this. When do you think the river flows the fastest? What time of year? Now, if you said the spring or the summer, you're absolutely correct. Because during that period, all of this frozen water, this snow that we see, is going to start to melt. And as that turns from frozen water to liquid water, it's going to have to flow somewhere. And eventually it makes its way down to the Snake River. But in the winter, this time of the year, it can actually get cold enough at night that the river can completely freeze over, which is pretty amazing. Now, no matter what the river looks like, what the water looks like, whether it's frozen or liquid, creatures here in Grand Teton National Park, they depend on the Snake River in order to survive. Creatures like bald eagles, cutthroat trout, moose, beaver, and one of my favorite animals found here in the park, the river otters. Now, river otters are a member of the weasel family, and they've often been described as adorable, playful, and just all-around fun. Now, river otters are carnivores, and they'll spend most of their time in and around the water, but they can also be found on the banks of the Snake River. They usually travel in family groups, and they could be seen wrestling on the banks or in the water. And even this time of the year, when there's snow on the banks, they'll make slides that go down into the Snake River, which is really fun. Now, river otters are very sensitive to pollution, which is important for us here in Grand Teton because that allows us to measure the health of the river and the ecosystem. Now, I want you to imagine this pristine river behind me. Imagine if the Snake River were polluted and how that would change the game. Well, it might mean that we don't have river otters, which could change the food web and completely change the ecosystem. So that's just one example of how rivers are an important source of liquid water. Now, I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about where you live and all the different sources of liquid water that can be found there. And in just a moment, I'm going to have you turn to a neighbor and just describe to that neighbor what your favorite form of liquid water is. But before we do that, I'm going to send it back to the snow desk.
Thanks, Ranger Clay. Can you believe they tried to interview the river? What are everyone's favorite forms of liquid water out there? Mine is rain. The last state of water that we are going to talk about is gas or floating water. And sometimes you can't even see it. Has anyone out there been able to see their breath today? I can see mine. That's an example of water vapor. We find water vapor when water heats up. And here in Grand Teton National Park, we have a special example of naturally warm water that produces steam. And it's where Field Ranger Megan is standing by. Ranger Megan, are you there?
Hi, I'm Ranger Megan. I'm coming to you from Kelly Warm Spring here in Grand Teton National Park. And my favorite form of water is steam, or water in the form of gas, because it's sneaky and you never know where you're going to find it. In fact, sometimes it's invisible. You can see it a little bit here today. If it looks a little foggy behind me, that's because I'm standing next to a warm spring. It's about 80 degrees year-round, so a little cooler than your average hot tub. And there's a pocket of magma underneath us that's keeping that steam, that water warm and pushing it out into the warm spring for us. Now, there are other animals in the ecosystem that'll take advantage of the steam here. Bison need to bulldoze through that snow with their big head, like a snow plow, to get down to the grasses, the sedges, the forbs. They're herbivores, so they need that stuff. Now, if they were over at Snow Desk, they'd be digging through snow chest high on me. But I just measured the snow over there, and here at Kelly Warm Springs, it's only about 6 inches of snow. So a lot less work for them to get to that lunch. And they're 2,000-pound animals. They need a lot of lunch. So when you come out here, you might find bison wandering around and taking advantage of the warm steam in this area. They're an important part of our ecosystem. Without them, our food chain wouldn't be complete here. So we're really happy about that. They're also really important because this is one of the only places in the world that you can find free-roaming bison. Now, that's just one reason why I like steam and water vapor. I want you to think about your home for a second and think about all the places that you might find steam and water vapor. You might have to imagine for a second because it's probably invisible. Once you've thought of it, I want you to turn to your neighbor and share your favorite form of water vapor back home. Snow Desk, back to you.
Thanks, Ranger Megan. So let's recap. H2O exists in 3 ways: solid, liquid, or gas. And it travels in 3 ways through the water cycle. While many people travel to Grand Teton as a vacation destination, water in Grand Teton goes on a trip even more spectacular. It travels through the water cycle. So come along for the journey.
No need for cars or the straps of your guitar. water moves about the Tetons with ease. It's simple, can't you see? The water cycle, 1, 2, 3. Follow along to the tune of this song. 1, evaporation when the sun comes out. 2, water condenses in the clouds. 3, precipitation when the clouds get mighty heavy and the rain, it all falls down. Then down our cascades, a myriad of waterways brings the rain to our rivers and our streams. Glacial lakes are filled in the way that water will make us jump with joy and glee. 1, evaporation when the sun comes out. 2, water condenses in the cloud. 3, precipitation when the clouds get mighty heavy and the rain, it all falls down. Yeah, the rain, it all falls down.
All right, my throat's a little sore from singing that song right there. You might be wondering if it travels by way of evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. Where in the world, not just Grand Teton, can we find all that water at any given moment? Where is it being stored?
The mountains?
Well, sort of. You might be thinking about watershed instead of the water cycle.
What is watershed?
So when you think of watershed, think of putting sand into a funnel, and that funnel into a bottle. That's right, I'm talking about sand art. In Grand Teton, the mountains act like a natural water funnel and direct that melted snow down to become part of our lakes and rivers.
I'm getting thirsty thinking about all of this water. All right, so let's think about all the different places you can find natural fresh water on Earth.
Oh, like Jackson Lake.
Yes, but I'm not thinking about specific names like Jackson Lake. I'm looking for categories like lake. Lakes only contain 0.013% of the world's water. Let's see if we can name all the other places where you can find naturally occurring fresh water.
Well, we have groundwater and aquifers.
Yes, and that makes up 1.69% of the Earth's water.
What about clouds?
That would be 0.001%.
And water in the soil?
Also 0.001%.
How about our rivers?
Oh, only 0.0002%.
Whoa. How about plants and animals?
0.0001%. And then we have glaciers, ice, and snow, something we've been talking about a lot today, and that is 1.76%, and that's the highest percentage so far. That means there is a lot of frozen fresh water all around us that we could possibly drink as it melts during the summer. It's kind of like a piggy bank, saving that water for later.
Wait, all that only adds up to like less than 4%.
Well, that's because all the rest of Earth's water is salty ocean water. Oceans make up 96.5% of the Earth's water, and a percent means out of 100. So now, all that adds up to 100%.
Uh-oh. And we can't drink that, can we?
No, so really there's not very much fresh water accessible for us to drink.
And this is incredibly important because will Earth ever get more water? No. This is all the water we're going to get. Water moves and transforms through the water cycle. But this is the water we get forever. In fact, we still drink the same water dinosaurs drink.
Really?
Yeah, that's so wild.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, so what should we do about this, guys?
Well, I think we need to take care of our water. I think we need to save water. We can't afford to waste it, so we have to keep it clean. We have to value what we have. And the good news is, there are ways that you and I can help take care of our water. I'd like to show you a fun example of how we can all save or conserve water at home. All right, so as we just saw, the ranger who let their water faucet run wasted 3 gallons of water. That means every day that ranger wastes 6 gallons of water.
Why 6?
Well, you brush your teeth twice a day, don't you?
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah. So let's find out how many gallons of water a family of 4 could save every day by turning off their water while brushing their teeth. I think we need to do some multiplication for this one. All right, so 4 people times 6 gallons per day is...
Computing. Okay, 24. That means they could save 24 gallons of water per day. And over the course of the week, we're talking 168 gallons. Wow. And in a year, a family of 4 could save 8,736 gallons, which is like about the size of a backyard swimming pool. Wow. Imagine how much water we could save if we taught this to someone we know. Some of you already do this. Ranger Kennedy, what are some other ways we can save water?
I could probably take shorter showers.
Yeah, taking shorter showers is a good one. Believe it or not, using a dishwasher helps you save water. And then you don't have to wash them all by hand. So
Yeah.
it kind of works. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And perhaps washing your clothes or towels less. So instead of just using a towel once and putting it in your hamper, keep using it until it gets good use out of it, right?
Hang it up and use it a second time.
Sure.
Absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about Grand Teton, which can have a lot of water depending on the snowpack. But there are other places that are naturally a lot drier, like Death Valley National Park in California, which is the driest and hottest desert in the United States. But there are some places that are receiving more water than they're prepared to deal with, which causes flooding. And other places that aren't getting the snow or water that they're used to, which can encourage wildfires. You are looking at an image of the snow-tell sites across the western United States, which measure the amount of precipitation and how much water that precipitation holds. The blue dots represent a higher amount of precipitation than normal, whereas the orange and red dots represent less precipitation than normal. This is based on averaging all of this collected data over the past 30 years. So think about your hometown. Have you noticed any changes in precipitation there?
Find out what's happening in your region. If your area is getting drier, it's important to save water. But if your hometown is getting wetter, it's still important to save water so we can share it with other drier areas. It will also be important to keep that water clean. So, what are some ways you can help keep your water clean? I have a few ideas. One could be cleaning up your trash, making sure it doesn't get into our water. Maybe picking up after your pets. And disposing of chemicals and batteries properly can really help to avoid leaching into our waters. You can probably think of places around the United States and the world where people don't have access to clean drinking water. So encourage your friends and neighbors to take care of their water. Teach one person one way to save water, whether it's turning off the faucet while brushing your teeth like we learned today, taking quicker showers, or using a reusable water bottle. Small changes can make big impacts.
Wow, that sounds like we have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we can handle it. So let's recap. The world only has one supply of water, and that water can exist in three ways: solid, liquid, or gas. And water moves through these three states as it travels through the water cycle, through evaporation, condensation, and then precipitation.
Yes, and speaking of traveling, the water we have in Grand Teton National Park might end up as your drinking water someday. Or your water might end up here in Grand Teton as glaciers, rivers, or steam. Protecting the water and the park is a pretty big job for us park rangers, and our hard work is not enough. We need your help. Can you point to someone who you think can help protect national parks? That's right. You're pointing to someone who can. National parks are here for everyone to enjoy, so it's up to everyone, including you, and your family, and your teachers, to help protect these special places.
We challenge you and your teacher to talk more about how to protect national parks near you. National park sites like Everglades National Park or Brown versus Board of Education National Historic Site. Visit local parks. Take a field trip. Learn, explore, become a junior ranger. Find your park. And in the words of the Lorax,
unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot,
nothing is going to get better. It's not. We hope you care a whole awful lot about Grand Teton National Park and other national parks near you. Thank you for tuning in to this broadcast of Snow Desk.
Thank you all.
Yay, questions! All right. Thank you, Instagram, for posting your questions. All right. So, what's your favorite season to be in the park?
Okay. That's a really tough question because they're all amazing. I would say I really love fall colors, so fall anywhere is my favorite time of year. How about yours?
I'm really enjoying this winter wonderland. I've been doing a lot of Nordic skiing and hiking and also snowshoeing, and it's really peaceful here. There's not as many people that visit us in the winter, so it's a very quiet, peaceful place to be, and it's so beautiful. All right, so there was a question about how does the snow insulate warmth? And it's because it holds air in. And so believe it or not, there's a lot of animals that will dig down into the snow just a little bit into the snow, 3 inches or 6 inches. they do find that the temperature is a little bit warmer, 3 to 6 degrees warmer. And then, of course, they don't have to deal with also the air temperature or any wind. So, a lot of the animals here in the park bury under the snow to insulate them and keep them a little bit warmer.
Yeah. Um,
So, yeah, you're a park ranger. Why don't you tell us your favorite part about being a park ranger?
Great. Okay, so the question was, what's your favorite part about being a park ranger? All right. And we're both rangers here in Grand Teton, so I would like you to share as well.
Okay.
My favorite part is getting to meet people from all over the world. National parks are so cool because you get visitors from various parts of the nation, international visitors, visitors that speak different languages, and you get to learn so much about the world when you get to visit national parks. And it's really cool because places like Grand Teton, where they're protecting the natural resources, is really special because a lot of people connect to the natural resources and kind of find that common ground. And it's also cool to visit places like historic sites because then even if you're not from the United States, we get to teach them about things that have happened here as well.
Yeah, all of our national park sites are so important for different reasons. I really like working with kids, so I've really enjoyed having field trips. Groups of students come here to our national park, and we can show them some super cool things about what makes Grand Teton unique. And yeah, I really love sharing the idea of outdoor recreation, and national parks are a great way to get outdoors and enjoy our beautiful country.
How does snow affect the wildlife? Is what I heard. Yeah. So okay, this is really cool. So when winter hits Grand Teton National Park and we have snow, animals can either choose to stay here for the winter, they might hibernate, or they migrate. So animals like bears will go into their dens and sleep for most of the winter. Right before winter hits, they go through a phase called hyperphagia where they're eating a ton of calories and they get nice and fat. And then they go off and sleep and kind of, they have a slower metabolism, slower breathing, and that's how they're able to cope with such harsh winters. There's animals like the elk here in Grand Teton that migrate south. And we actually have the National Elk Refuge just 20 minutes south of Grand Teton National Park where a lot of them go. And then there's animals like, there's so many animals. Animals like the lynx, for example, we have a pelt here, that they are able to cope by adjusting their bodies. So the lynx in the summertime, for example, they might have a paw the size, you have your hand kind of squeezed nice and tightly, and they grow extra fur in between their toes to help them spread out their paw and kind of become like snowshoes, and it helps distribute their weight so they can basically float on top of the snow and have a really easy time getting around. Yeah.
So
Those are some
they
ways.
kind of like the winter. They kind of
Yeah.
like the snow.
How did you get your park ranger job or seasonal job? So how do you get into the park service, or how do you get to work in places like these? I personally, and I hear this from a lot of people, doing internships or volunteer work is a good way to get your foot in the door with working in the park service. I got my first experience in Yosemite National Park through the Yosemite Leadership Program, which is a partnership program with the school I went to. And there's a lot of internship programs out there. Here in Grand Teton, we host an internship program called National Park Service Academy, NPSA. And we get to host interns. Maybe about half of the interns work at Grand Teton, and other interns go off to different parks. So there's a lot of programs out there. And then there's always a chance to volunteer. So if you are able to, you can try to get in contact with your local park and see how you can volunteer as well if that's something you're interested in.
And it takes education but also experience to get a position at National Park Service. So, like for example, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, so my degree is in education, social studies education, and my master's degree is in experiential education, which focuses on place-based education. And then if you're into biology, you'd want to get more like a biology degree. So there's lots of different jobs that we need people to do here at the park. And so that combination of education and experience can give you an opportunity to work at an amazing place like Grand Teton National Park. All right. Well, this has been really fun.
Yes, it's been really fun to hang out with all of you tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Snow Desk, and we can't wait for next year to see you all.
Have a wonderful day.